Hello, I'm Casey Dinges, Senior Managing Director for the American Society of Civil Engineers. Thanks for joining us today for a discussion on how to go from civil engineer to manager. My guest today is Anthony Fasano, founder of the Engineering Management Institute and host of the Civil Engineering Podcast, dedicated to core skills training for civil engineers. Anthony, welcome back to The Interchange.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
Anthony, civil engineers at most firms, usually early in their careers, must decide whether they want to take the technical path or the management path. How does an engineer decide or know which way they should go?
Well, Casey, I would give you a two-part answer here. Firstly, it's kind of a gut feeling. Every civil engineer usually starts in a technical role, regardless of what discipline you're in. And in fact, what I would recommend is that you try different technical disciplines, whether it's bridge engineering, soils engineering, site engineering, because then you get a feel for it at the best time in your career. But then as you get more involved with any type of management activities, whether it's communicating with clients or people, you're just going to start to feel whether it feels right to you or not. You're going to have to feel it out. But what I think is more important in terms of the second part of this answer is thinking about the companies that you work for, because they may drive this solution here for you in terms of becoming a manager or not. Because if you work for a small company, maybe 100 people or less, you're probably going to be doing some kind of management because they just don't have a separate manager's track. But if you start to work for a larger company, maybe 1,000 people, then there will be really well-defined technical or management tracks, and you'll have a better option. So one of the things to consider is not only if you think you're going to like to be a manager, but if that opportunity is going to be available to you where you are and if you're going to be able to see those opportunities.
If the civil engineer has decided he or she wants to take the management path, what are some of the ways the engineer can show their boss they're ready to manage?
Sure. So effective civil engineering managers usually have three different things working for them. First of all, they can work with people well. Secondly, they can manage projects or tasks well. And thirdly, they can communicate effectively. So you have to try to show your supervisor that you can do some of those things. So in terms of working with people, anything you can do, whether it's volunteering to work with people, whether it's volunteering at ASCE on a board, right, and showing your supervisor that you can get out there and work with people. The same goes for communication. They're going to see you communicating with people. And then try to show them that you're a good project manager in some way. Maybe you volunteer to run some lunch and learn sessions in the office, showing that you can manage projects. So when your supervisor sees you involved in all these different things, they're going to recognize that, you're a people person, you're a project management type of person. And that's going to show them that you can be an effective manager.
If they don't have these skills, how can they develop these skills?
So this is a really great question. And I've done a lot of training and coaching with engineers, and I can see how they learn. And I am an engineer myself. And what happens here is there's two kind of ways you can learn, right? One way is to go through short, intensive spurts, right? Like, for example, you want to get your PE license. You're going to study for 6 months. You're going to cram. You're going to take it, hopefully pass it. And that's going to be a big help towards becoming a manager. But if you want to really build skills, it has to be more of a consistent approach, right? So if I want to become a better speaker, I need to speak maybe once a week or 4 or 5 times a month in front of people. So what I would say to you is engineers are busy these days. So you can't always go with the consistent approach, which means you have to try to do something in a sprint, whatever that might be for you. Maybe it's a course, maybe it's a book. But the best way to do it is to try to build consistency into your skill development and accountability.
What's the difference between a manager and a leader?
When you say the word leader, that's someone that you want to work for, right? They've created this goal and they're inspiring their team to move towards it together. Sometimes when you say the word manager, it's kind of, you feel like I have to work for this person because they're my manager. So at the end of the day, I think if you're an effective manager or leader and you're doing the things that we talked about, you're going to be great in your career. But sometimes I might hear people say that managers kind of make people work for them, or people have to work for them because they feel like, oh, that's my manager. Not they want to come to the office every day and work with that person because they're the leader and they're inspiring them kind of towards this common goal.
So it sounds like the leader is a little more inspirational.
Yeah, the leader's a little bit more inspirational, and they're giving you some purpose in your career that you really want to work towards, which makes you feel like, yeah, I really want to work with this person. So if you want to become a strong civil engineering manager, make sure that you're letting your team know that you're open and available to them, because that'll make them feel better, that they can come to you, which makes people comfortable. And also, if they are going to give you advice or they're going to say, maybe we could try this, then you should consider that advice and maybe try some of it. And I think that really ups the respect level, which helps to go towards that leader that people respect and really want to work for.
That's a good point. It's often said that listening is that understated communication skill.
Exactly.
Are there any good books or podcasts you'd recommend that provide more insight into managing?
Sure. So I can give 3 specific resources because I know that there's a lot of resources out there. I do host a podcast called the Civil Engineering Podcast, like you mentioned before. It's at civilengineeringpodcast.com, completely free, over 100 episodes. But I want to highlight one episode number 89. I visited with Mott McDonald, CEO of North America, Nick DiNiccolo, sat in his office with him. He manages many people, but he took the time to talk with me for about an hour about how important people are in leadership and how he spends a lot of time focusing on his people, whether it means the clients or the people that work for him and work with him. And I thought it was an amazing message, and I would highly recommend that episode. The second resource is I write a column for ASCE called Ask Anthony, which is housed on the ASCE Careers and Leadership blog. And we have a URL set up at askanthony.blog, actually, that redirects to all of the articles. There's 50 articles of me answering questions of civil engineers, a lot of them pertaining to management. That's another resource. And the last one I'll give is a book that I like a lot called High Output Management. It's written by Andrew Grove, who was one of the founders of Intel. And the thing about being an effective manager is you have to understand that you have leverage, meaning that where you used to come to the office every day as a civil engineer and design something, now you might have 5, 10, or even more people that are on a team with you. So if you're able to work with them and make them productive and give them that purpose, you can do a lot more than just you.
Thanks again for joining me today, Anthony.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
For more information on ASCE's Interchange program, visit asce.org/interchange. Thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on the ASCE Interchange.